Steven, that's not, you want to chat?
Well, I want to, but I still need you for our analogy. Okay, so.
I'll be the presenting girl.
Hi, my name is Steve. This is my amazing wife and secret weapon, Samara. So I want to give you a kind of an analogy of what's really going on and the mindset and attitude to have towards the next year or so. Okay, and when I was a kid, I grew up in Florida, and I loved going to the beach, and I loved like body surfing. You know, it's like a way to come. You know, I never surfed, but body surfing has some of the same principles, right? Anyone ever loved going to the beach when you're a kid? And people in Australia love to surf, so you should get this analogy, right? And one thing you learn is you learn what it takes to catch the wave. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's like you learn after practicing a bit. It takes a little bit of intensity and focus at the right time, and then you're good, and it's super fun. But if you miss it, it's like, oh, it passed me by because it wasn't quite intense enough at the right time. Does that make sense? So if there's an, Vitify is really a wave, okay? And what we want to teach you today is some of the very practical skill sets, but also a lot of the right mindset so you can catch the wave, okay? And so if a wave comes along, right, and here comes the wave, it's coming along, I see the wave, I don't want to see it, but I'm like, oh, it looks great, but I'm kind of busy, and, I've got to fix the screen door, and, my mother-in-law's coming over next Tuesday for lunch, so I don't know if I can make the meeting, or, it's like, we see it, we're kind of excited, but, it's like life, you don't prioritize it, you don't have the intensity, okay? Or if the wave comes along, and like, you see it, and you put aside everything, and you like, paddle, all of a sudden you feel it, it catches you. Does that make sense? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is like super easy and fun all of a sudden. Right?
What is that?
Yeah, so, having spent almost 30 years in this type of business, I will tell you, if you can understand the wave and catching it and having 6 months of zealous, focused intensity, where you get rid of all the excuses, what you do for the next 6 months, next year, you can get paid on for 10 years, 20 years. I mean, it's like, absolutely, that's what you see in the industry. But it takes a certain mindset and focus, okay? So come on up, honey. So my wife is going to be presenting with me because otherwise I might fire hose you. Anyone understand that? Like, I'll give you too much information, right? You'll be all like, so we're going to interact a lot and talk about different things and take breaks, right? So today, by the end of the day, I want you to remember 11 things, okay? 4 things from this morning, and 4 things from this morning, and 5 simple things from this afternoon. And the 4 things in the morning are just 4 basic words. And so what we're going to talk about today, we'll get to that in a bit. I want to give you a couple other things. So your ability to get something out of today has as much, if not more, to do with your expectation as it is with the content I present, okay? I could give complete, ridiculous, silly stuff all day long, but if you have the right expectation coming in here, maybe something I said would trigger something else, and you can walk out of here with like, oh my goodness, I don't know what he said, but like something, I got a light bulb moment today, right? So be sure that you have an expectation that what you hear today will impact you like that, and all of a sudden you get it. Does that make sense? And what was difficult all of a sudden becomes easy in your life, in business, okay? My background is, oh goodness, 45 years ago, my mom had terminal cancer. They told her it was terminal, breast lymphatic uterine cancer. The doctor said, if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, you will be dead in 6 months. And she didn't do anything the doctor told her to do. She got very serious about nutrition, thinking outside the box, very serious about her faith and trusting God, and had a supernatural experience, right? But it set the precedent in our family of like, maybe it's a good idea to think a little outside the box and to take some personal responsibility. And just because someone tells you that doesn't work or that can't be done, it's like, yeah, you might be wrong. I don't care how much of an expert you are. So that kind of said a bit of it, and that's one reason I've always been open to doing stuff like this, right? And so what we're going to train on today is just let me start. Right. So what we're going to train on today is something called flow, a flow state, okay? And the reason we're going to be talking about this is because it's not, it's how you do the hows that matter, right? This afternoon, it's how you do the hows. This afternoon, we're going to be super practical, okay? Like, say this exact same thing, right? Do it exactly this way, right? And some people are like, oh, I want all the practical steps. Great. But there's a reason why there's a whole bunch of people with the practical knowledge who don't have a big business because they don't have the right mindset and approach to be effective in, right?
Yeah, and I just want to, I think it's super important to emphasize that how you do the how. You don't have to be an expert to share this product. You don't have to know everything about it. You don't have to have a high rank in order to share. I think it's just understanding where to share from and understanding that we are whole people. You're not just showing up here like a brand new baby, like I don't know anything and I'm just going to do it all right from the start. We all have a little bit of a story behind us that we're bringing to this conversation. We're bringing to the table. We're bringing to this season of opportunity where this product is coming into this country like a giant wave. And so one of the things that we like to coach people on is your story is actually your greatest asset. What you've already gone through in the past is actually a strength for you. You might still even be experiencing some trauma from something that happened in your past, but when you're in flow, it becomes an asset. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. So let's talk a bit about this word flow. What is flow? Okay. From a very practical sense, there's a lot of science on flow right now. And researchers now know that people who are in flow, like for example, an executive who kind of fine tunes this mindset, typically are 400 to 500% more effective than people who are not. Who would like to be 400 to 500% more effective, right? So we describe flow this way. It's like, I know all you Aussies, you love your sports, right? And you like the sporting stuff, right? Okay, cute. So you can see flow, for example, in a sporting event, right? Oh, they did this amazing shot and they made it look easy. And probably if you ask the person, did that feel difficult? Yeah, no, man, it was this, right? So
Cruisy.
Yeah. Cruisy. So I'm finding that you just take whatever word you do want to say, you shorten it, and you put a Y on the end, and then it doesn't always. Okay. So you can see flow in, for example, if you go to a concert, right, with classical music or something, it's just like mind blowing that they can play this super complicated classical piece, but they made it look effortless. So flow is both tremendously effective and beautiful and effortless at the same time. And so you can have also flow in business, in your network marketing business, right? So this is what I'm zealous about in my own life. And what I found over the last several years is like the better I get at making it easy, the more abundant it is. And it keeps notching up, easier and more abundant, and easier and more abundant. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
And the ease he's talking about does not have to do with the circumstances being perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, flow is one of the things that will empower you to keep going no matter what obstacles present themselves. The most opportunity is available when there's the most turbulence. If you want to wait until everything is all ironed out, the opportunity is going to be a little bit less. Just going to be straight with you guys. Waiting for things to become easy is basically a plan to fail, because if it seems easy, there's about to be a bump in the road. So this is about an ease that's within and a mindset.
Exactly. So as a leader, as someone who knows how to make money in this industry, if I'm with a company and there are no problems whatsoever, everything's like perfect, the customer service, the shipping, everything's perfect. It makes me a little nervous because I'm like, is the raw opportunity over? Did we miss it? Right? So as a leader, I know one of the things I get paid the best to do is to overcome problems, right? So if there's no problems, I'm like, are we getting paid? Like, I want to get paid a lot, but there's nothing to fix, right? So, we were with one company that went from 0 to $1 billion in cumulative sales in under 5 years. Stunning growth, right? I still have an account with that company, and right now, everything's perfect with that company. Shipping, customer service, website, zero problems at all, but no growth, right? I remember in the raw stages of growth, if I had a question, here's what I would do. I'd call customer service 3 times. Why? Because I called them up, I'd ask them the question, they'd tell me the answer, I'd say thank you, I'd hang up, I'd call back, talk to someone else, ask the same question, because no one knew what they were talking about, right? And I figured if I got an average, like if 2 of the 3 customer service people said the same thing, I'm like, okay, that's probably what we're going with, okay? But that was just when it was in growth, okay? So there are 4 steps to flow, okay? And these are sequential steps, and these words you can substitute different words for this, okay? And that's fine, but we're going to use these right here, and we're going to talk in a lot of detail about them.
There will be a quiz on this later.
Quiz, remember? So these are 4 of the 11 things I want you to walk out here remembering, right? So if I sneak into your house some morning before you've had your cup of coffee, and I go, back, what are the 4 steps of flow? I want you to be like, boom, selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, richness, okay? And if you can get good at these, here's the good news, is that flow is not just about business, okay? Flow is about your life, right? You want your relationships to be in flow. You want to get fit? Do it in flow, right? It's, every aspect of your life can be impacted by this. And the great thing about doing a network marketing business is it's kind of a personal development course with a paycheck attached, right? So you get to get very good feedback on whether or not you're in flow, and the more consciously competent you are of flow, then you can also start applying that to other areas of your life, okay? So selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. And if you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive in this, there's an author, his name is Stephen Kotler, Koettler, Stephen Kotler. And he's an author, he wrote a bunch of books about this type of stuff. And his experience was being a writer, sports writer for ESPN, and doing a lot of X Games stuff, right? These crazy, this insane stuff, right? And he was fascinated by it because one year, oh, bro, don't do that move, you'll die for sure, right? And the next year it was like, oh, yeah, everyone's doing that move and no one's dying. And you're like, what? How is it to have that radical increase in the potential and what you can do? It was just, he became fascinated with it. And this is a lot of how you get in flow. You can do your sports better, everything better. So for example, one thing I want to say for sure is that in network marketing, if you don't have a system to follow, you don't have a business at all, right? And one thing I want to say is, if you notice the type of growth you've had in Australia has a lot to do with the leadership of these 3 ladies up front, okay? And they have a clear system, right? So I'm not here to teach you about the system. You have a system. Grab a hold of it with absolute intensity and focus. And if it doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about that. just follow it, okay? So number one, selflessness, all right? Selflessness has to do with your identity, your ego, where you get your value from, okay? There is maybe the most important question to be able to answer in your life is, where and how do you get your value? Now, literally, for your mental health, that is the number one thing to be able to answer in an empowered way. And the stunning majority of the population do not know how to answer that in a way that empowers them, right? And so what do I mean by that? There's an interesting book called Power versus Force by a guy named Dr. David Hawkins, okay? And in it, he kind of details the two different ways you can go through life. You can go through life in force or in power. And power is very similar to flow, okay? So when you operate in force, you push on life and life pushes back. And you get some things done, right? But it requires a lot of energy, right? And a lot of collateral damage. And as you operate in force, your value and your identity come from typically three places. How am I performing personally? That tells me what I'm worth. How are people treating me? That tells me what I'm worth. How are institutions honoring me? That tells me what I'm worth. So you understand, if that's typically people come at that definition by accident, right? And if those are your definitions, then you're very, very vulnerable to circumstances. You're not really a powerful person because all those things change all the time, right? Oh, how am I going to do today? I don't know. Am I going to be worth anything tonight, or maybe not? Or what if I call somebody and they don't like that I'm doing network marketing, or they think this about me or that about me? That stresses me out. I have to avoid that. But what if I don't hit rank this month, right? What if someone else does better than I do? So one way to understand it is this. To step into selflessness, you want to become very aware of what in your life is trash talking you. That makes sense? But what I mean by trash talking is like, oh, look at that. You're probably not going to make this month. You're going to be embarrassed. I bet you're going to work super hard and you're going to fail. And like in 6 months from now, you'll realize this whole thing was a mistake. And blah, blah. So what is it? The goal or your performance is trash talking you. That makes sense? So like, you're going to fail and I'm going to tell you what you're worth, right?
They're going to be right.
Yeah. All my relatives, they're going to be right, and they're going to laugh at me and this, right? It's all these things. So what you have to be very, very clear about is to have a very clear value. Well, like, where do I get my value from that is absolutely bulletproof, right? So as a Christian, I operate under the belief that God loves me unconditionally, apart from my performance, right? So if I believe that, then it doesn't matter how I perform today or how people treat me or how institutions honor me. I don't let that supersede the fact that God already told me what I want, right? So now, if that's not your personal belief, you're going to have to find something equally powerful that is invulnerable to your circumstances and your experience in your environment, so you can just, here's one way to describe it. Your peace and joy can go one of two ways. They can be emotions dependent on favorable circumstances, right? Or they can be a spiritual force that changes your circumstances. And the only way that can happen is if your value is 100% bulletproof, right? I'll give you a great example. My father-in-law is just he's this amazing guy. He's a little slow at doing things and, very systematic, and he was the executor of his great aunt's estate. And his sister and brother-in-law had some issues with how he was handling the estate. I don't know, if anyone ever realized that people get super weird about money and estates and inheritances, they like lose their mind over that stuff. Anyways, one day his brother-in-law says to him, "You have no honor in my house." It's like a super nasty thing to say to somebody, right? My father-in-law has clarity on this. He says, "I don't get my honor from you." So he said this first thing of selflessness. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter. Nothing around him can trash talk him, right? You know, we go back to the sports analogy. It's like you have two boxers that are going to fight, and then all the trash talking leading up to the event, they're trying to get in each other's heads. Does that make sense? So they'll make mistakes, like so they'll be reactive and angry and all this stuff. So number one, selflessness.
Yeah, I think a good clue to know if you're in selflessness or not is to kind of pay attention to what you react to. What is the silent like conversation going on in your mind that you're replaying over and over again? Things like that are kind of like little clues. What like super irritates you, or what is like, that's getting in my way, that's preventing me from having success, like shipping, or you know, or someone else isn't doing what they're supposed to do, so I can't have what I'm supposed to have. Like listening to what's kind of getting under your skin. And so then at that point, okay, somehow I've come off my foundation.
Yep.
Somehow something else is having a higher voice in my life than I have inherent value. And nothing changes that value. I'm worthy, nothing changes that worthiness, or things like along that line. Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like this. Understand that rage is connected to humiliation, is connected to shame, right? So someone cuts you off in traffic, you're like, I'm gonna run that dude off the road and whatever. You lose your mind over it, right? And it's like, oh, because he cut me off, he's treating me like I don't matter. So that event was fundamentally attacking my identity. Now, there could be some real dangerous stuff with this because you understand if someone's who's anyone ever been a lifeguard, like for summer job, right? So one thing they teach you is like, hey, if someone's drowning, be super careful because they will drown you in an attempt to survive, right? Because they're not even thinking straight, right? So someone stuck in shame who's not connected to selflessness, they will act in a completely irrational manner because they have to protect their value and their identity. Okay. Any questions on this first step here? Right. So,
you guys tracking with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good job. We do have a potential. For everyone paying, I'm watching. Who's paying attention? We have the golden drops. We have some magic here for someone. You might have to take them right now.
So as you're going through this in life, it's good to check all the steps: selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and riches. So how do you check the first one? You go, does it seem like something out there is trash talking you? Does that make sense? Oh, don't call those people. They're not going to be interested, and you're going to be embarrassed, and this isn't going to work out. You can put all this effort into, but the shipping's going to be wrong, right? And they're never going to get product, and you're going to be so embarrassed that you told everyone this is going to be like. See, understand? Blah 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 blah. Right? It's like, oh, so it's trying. See, here's the thing. Anything that can tell you what you're worth owns you. Like owns you. Right? Anyone else like to be owned by someone or something else and have no freedom? No. It's like, well, you better get clear on this so you can be a free person, right? So number two, timelessness. This is a very interesting one. And the way I would describe this is the vast majority of people, they don't connect to timelessness. So all they do is you wake up in the morning and you start responding or reacting to whatever's demanding that you pay attention to, and you pay attention to it now, right? It's like if you're not connected to timelessness, you'll use language out loud or internally. I have to, I must, I should. right? I have to, I must, I should, this is demanding, I gotta do this, then I can respond to that, and this, right? Yeah, it's like anyone, here's a great example. You're at the grocery store and this woman is shopping with her small child, and the small child's like screaming, I want this, right? And you see the mom just giving in. Okay, sure, honey, have this, have some more candy, right? Now, 100%, it is easier to give in to the 2-year-old terrorist than to resist them. Does that make sense? Way easier. But you pay a price down the road, big time. That makes sense. It's like, oh, yeah, let's just let the 2-year-old, the 2 or 3-year-old super bossy small children in your life be in charge. So understand that a lot of your things that you have to deal with right now are acting like that 2, 3-year-old. Okay. And one of the reasons that timelessness is so important is because you can't, leaders get paid to solve problems at a high level. Okay. If you don't connect to timelessness, you solve problems at a very low level of consciousness, right? If you come up with a world-class solution to something, congratulations, you are now in charge and we're gonna pay you. That makes sense? It's a good thing, right? But to do that, you've got to really understand timelessness. I'll give you some examples. One of my spiritual mentors said this. He says, tranquility breeds creativity. Tranquility breeds creativity. He says, when I have a big problem in my ministry, guess what step number 1 is? He goes fishing. You're like, oh, fishing? That's so irresponsible. You can't do that. Shame on you. You should be in the office, stressed. That's what responsible people do. Interesting, right? Oh, I'm responsible if I give in to the terrorists in my life. Why? Because I have to, I must, I should. So when you use it, I have to, I must, I should, you are operating in the currency of guilt and shame. It's the lowest level consciousness thing possible. Okay.
You say the blinders tie in to this? Yeah, so if you look at Steven, go ahead and do that again. Okay, you're like focused, you're getting a job done, nothing is going to interrupt you. But what if your solution is out here? Okay, enter into timelessness, and then wait, what happened? Oh, what is over here, babe? If you understand, like you've been there, right? Like I'm so focused on finding my keys, I'm so focused on finding my phone. Where's my phone? I can't find my phone. Where's my phone? And it's you're talking on your phone. Where's my keys? They're like, I've done it a few times. Honestly, yeah, I think that there's a little bit of this idea. Oh, if I just focus and fix these problems, if I just respond to this, I have to put this fire out, and it creates a tunnel vision. And the true solutions to the challenges that you're facing are outside of that view of tunnel vision. And so it is important to, when you enter into that timelessness, you can just take a breath and realize, oh, okay, hold on. Let me get back to a little bit of perspective so that I can take a look at this. So what I want to do right now is if you could partner up, and we're gonna actually just talk a little bit about what you've learned about timelessness. And if you can think for 1 second before you turn to your partner, maybe you can remember an area of your life where you're like, oh, I kind of have been feeling this pressure around either timelessness or if something stood out to you about selflessness, about that, where I get my worth. Maybe just open up to your partner and just say, I'm kind of thinking about this differently now, or this stood out to me. Kind of workshop a little bit, if you can. Work out like a little bit of the timelessness, like, gosh, whenever like this happens, I can't think, I feel like it has to do with timelessness or something. So
here's a good question to ask and talk with your partner about is, so what do you do for fun?
that's a great
Right? Because a lot of people are like, fun, I'll do the fun when I'm done building business. It's like, yeah, good luck. You're gonna struggle, you're gonna be on the struggle bus all the way. Okay, so go ahead and partner up and talk about 2 ways you can step better into timelessness. Maybe you can remember a time when you had, yes, like that one time, I was walking on the beach, enjoying life, and all of a sudden, bing, right?